today?
Well, I'm here with Doug. It is Tuesday, April 9, 2024. Neither of us has ascended to heaven, so we're down here on Earth. And the most important news story of the day is that cybersecurity is useless, which is what I plan to start out with. Here you have an article in the Sun, the U.S. Sun, no less. I didn't even know there was a U.S. Sun. I thought there was only a U.K. Sun. And what these guys have done is they have concluded from the fact that Microsoft got hacked. Remember, we talked about this before, I'm sure. Microsoft got hacked. The attackers got hold of a master signing key from 2016, which they were able to use to create keys and get in email accounts. And Microsoft came up with more than 40 possible explanations for this and then published the one where it got stolen from a crash dump as the reason, when in fact they never figured out the fundamental cause at all. And they just lied about it. Well, apparently, somewhere on that list, one hypothesis was that China has created a quantum supercomputer that can crack all encryption. And so the Sun went with that. So this is their headline: Xi's Enigma machine. Here's China has created terrifying password-busting quantum supercomputer that renders all Western cybersecurity useless. So we're doomed. It's all over. China owns everything. And I just thought you should know.
So was this posted on April 1st?
No.
No. Oh,
April
okay.
5. No, it's not a joke. They're just,
Nope.
that's just their idea of journalism. And this happens a lot. You remember there was this guy called Crown Royal or something, Crown something at Black Hat like 2 or 3 years in a row that claimed to have like solved all RSA encryption or something based on complete garbage and trying to sell some kind of product. And in the same spirit, I got another one from the quantuminsider.com from an NSA expert saying we're all going to be using quantum computers in 3 to 5 years, which is complete garbage as well. I mean, he thinks there'll be cloud access to them soon and people actually be using them for some reason. And I highly doubt that. Just like, I think this is the Gartner hype cycle. As soon as something starts happening, a bunch of people freak out and say, it's going to change the whole world like right away soon. And it turns out that all that is not true. It's a lot longer than you think, and it's a lot less important than you think. So anyway.
So, Sam, how much do you know about the U.S. Sun? I'm just curious.
Nothing. I know it's one of the tabloids in Britain, I know. And I didn't even know
Yeah.
there was a U.S. version, but I guess there is.
Well, it's interesting. They call it U.S. edition.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at their website. I've never heard of them before, but there's a UK edition, which I
Right.
think has been around 100 years.
Yeah, that I've heard of. That's a pretty
Yeah.
standard UK tabloid.
So I would not be familiar with this, but there's also a Scottish Sun and Irish Sun.
Yeah.
So they're expanding to the US, and I kind of like this one because if you look on their website, if we go back to February 14th of 2024, they have an article that hack attack. Microsoft reveals hackers are using ChatGPT for dangerous attacks and warns enemy nation states are testing it too. And they show a picture.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah, everybody's using ChatGPT for password cracking and all that kind of stuff.
Well, I don't know if they're doing that with it, but sure.
Well, I'm saying that's what the article claims.
Yeah, this reminds me of a proposal I read at one of my consulting companies, where the person who wrote it seems to know nothing about cybersecurity except that there's something called packet captures, and I'm not sure what that is, so they just use that word a lot. There's a lot of security articles written like this, where somebody just learns one term and that's all they know.
Yeah. So Sam, we talked about this last episode, or maybe a couple before. Who wrote the book that's going around right now about children's brains being rewired?
Oh, Jonathan Haidt.
Yeah.
But he is a psychologist. I mean, he is somewhat qualified to make this statement, I guess.
Well,
but he has chosen just one possible reason and ignored all the others.
Yeah, but he claimed to have worked at was it Twitter or Facebook?
I'm not sure about that.
maybe I'll need to do a little bit of research on this, but I think his credibility has gone down substantially
Oh,
because he claimed to be an employee at, I'm going to pick on Facebook for now. And he claimed that internally in Facebook, he was reporting how horrible it was. And it turns out that he only worked at Facebook for about 6 months. So he barely got to know what was going on. And I'm not exactly sure what his role was, but something like a customer service representative, meaning that he had a very low key job, was only there a short term. And I would argue in 6 months, you barely have enough time to know really what's going on.
yeah, that's all news to me. The interviews I heard of him promoted his credentials as a research scientist at a university. And that's all I thought. He didn't say he actually worked inside these companies, the ones I heard, but maybe he claims that too.
Yeah, maybe I'll take a look at that because it's more interesting. And again, I think once that was kind of released, well, a lot of the hot air got released out of his claims, so to
Yeah.
speak.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I would be very surprised if the US Congress can actually get together enough to age gate social media, which is what he wants. I
Yeah,
think the most
yeah,
they might possibly do a TikTok ban, but I don't think they can hold together any longer than that.
yeah. I that's going to be an interesting one, but it's politics, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not news, politics.
Well, politics is news too, but it's the same thing as like video games are going to destroy our kids and television and everything, comic books.
Yeah, and if you go back, it was comic books, it was rock and roll music, it was
Yeah.
long hair, it was watching TV.
Yeah.
And somebody brought up something kind of interesting that the adults right now are kind of more or less part of the Sesame Street generation.
I
Would you
guess.
agree with that? They were
Well, I
brought
think
up with Sesame Street.
Well, some of them were. I know I have some people in my extended family who said this is how they handled their kids. They took the knob off the TV and left it on PBS. They said, "Oh, you can watch TV all you want." And they said this worked fine until they went to school and the other kids were talking about something called Power Rangers. What's that, Dad? And they say, "Uh-oh, we're busted." That seems like a pretty good solution. You watch all you want of that stuff, it won't do you any harm.
Yeah, so yeah, what I'm getting at is when Sesame Street came out, it was considered quite different because they were doing a lot of things that they're talking about now. There's fast switching. Did you talk about a topic for a short period of time, and then you switch to another topic, and you're always jumping around. There's sight and there's sound with all the movements. And that was considered the research that was done on child development and childhood development brains was this is what they need. And yet the generation before that was Captain Kangaroo,
Right.
which was much more kind of laid back or more Mr. Rogers like,
Yeah, that's what I saw.
where yeah, and that's what I grew up with was more Captain Kangaroo, Mr. Rogers.
Yep.
And you didn't have as much of this switching around and jumping around and
Which
the
is they're
the
freaking out
sights.
about
Yeah.
TikTok the same way, saying it lowers their attention span. They expect everything to be 30 seconds long now or something.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I guess we can blame this on Sesame Street and PBS. That's where the roots are coming from for this research. I'm joking on
Well,
that, but
that's an I don't know. I think you could get on Fox News with that. You could become famous.
I'm sure I could get on the U.S. Sun, huh?
You
Or
probably,
Sun
yeah, yeah,
U.S.
yeah.
edition.
Well, anyway, let's hear about your facial recognition.
Yeah, so this is kind of interesting. Israeli army is now using facial recognition software to identify Palestinians. And what they're doing is the Palestinians are able to move around, but they've created choke points where it's with military vehicles, which is forcing people to walk down streets in a single file line. And I'm pretty sure that this is not obvious from the story that I read that they're using facial recognition software. And as they get a detection, they pull somebody out of line. And there have been people that have wrongly identified just like in the United States, photo recognition, police departments have identified incorrect suspects off of that.
Yeah.
And the complaint is that it's, why are they using this? The software doesn't work so well. And then it was later revealed that uh, that they're using Google's face recognition software, the consumer grade, because the professional version isn't working as well.
Google has face recognition. Oh, Google image search.
Yeah, Google image search, they're using that.
Yeah, okay.
And so the Israeli army is saying, no, we're not using that. But when they were kind of asked about this in an interview, they said, well, you know, Google's consumer software works well enough for what we're doing. So yeah, you know, it's a good point, but they are grabbing incorrect people.
Yeah, well, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, yeah. So that was on Marketplace a few days ago.
Yeah.
If you're interested in that story, what do you have for us?
I got a few transportation ones. I was very interested to read finally.
Oh,
See, and anybody who lives in San Francisco Bay Area has probably noticed that it's now the Autobahn out there. There are no laws at all. People drive like lunatics, but they didn't before the pandemic. And they now have the statistics. The San Francisco Standard publishes this. Since between 2014 and 2023, the number of police traffic citations fell by 96%, which is, especially in San Francisco, as far as I can tell, the police are just on strike. They show up 4 hours late when you brought a robbery in progress. Half the time they'll just sit there and watch it happen and do nothing, and they don't do anything about traffic. So
yeah. Well, let me tell you, in the East Bay, Oakland, same thing.
yeah,
Oakland's got other problems though, and CHP is pretty much abandoned giving tickets. However, I've seen them starting to be on the side of the road, and I'm starting to see cars being pulled over.
I've seen a little bit of it on the freeways now.
Yeah, on the freeways.
During the
Yes.
pandemic, I never saw it there at all. And one time I was driving, and actually, like 4 race cars going 100 miles an hour, the little short ones were zipping through the traffic, having a real race right in the middle of traffic because everybody had learned nothing would happen no matter what you did.
Yeah, yeah. I think what the CHP is doing, I'm not sure, is they're going after extreme speeders, is what I'll call them.
Yeah, they say they've just deployed themselves to higher priority crimes, whatever those are. But as far as I can tell, they're not doing anything about any crimes.
Yeah, yeah. All
Anyway,
right.
and then I got a couple others like that. A bunch of articles about the SFMTA's train system, the Metro, is running on floppy disks, 5-inch floppy disks, apparently. And they're freaking out about that. They say the system was state of the art in 1998 when they put it in, and
Wait,
they haven't had the money for an
98?
upgrade. Yeah, and they haven't had money for an upgrade.
Wait, and what, one more time, 5.25 inch floppies,
Yeah,
8 inch, a five and a
five and a
quarter.
quarter, 5.25 inch floppies. And they say, the whole thing might die at any minute because these floppies might stop working, which means they don't understand how floppies work. I hope their techs do, because I remember I used the 10-inch floppy systems and we had a whole bunch of backup floppies of the system. You have to
Wait,
keep
you
making
had
backup
10
floppies
inch?
because
You had 10 inch?
uh,
8 inch?
it might have
Eight.
been eight, might have been, I can't
Yeah,
remember, might have been eight. But I remember
yeah,
we had a whole pile of them because they said, this is the system. If this goes bad, the whole thing is shot. So make sure and keep backups of the system floppy. And so I
right.
assume they're doing that with their 5.25 inch floppies. So there's no reason to think it's going to die any minute just because it's using floppy disks that are 20 years out of date, as long as they're doing it properly. But I wouldn't bet on them doing it properly. Anyway,
Yeah, but you can now get USB sticks that are floppy disk emulators.
yeah, they could
So,
probably upgrade the system, but apparently have no money to upgrade it. And it's still, anyway,
uh,
that's what's running.
wait, so wait a second.
Yeah.
An emulator, right? To convert a USB or a floppy disk port to USB is what? A couple $100, if that?
Well, I wouldn't bet on it because this is the whole thing with operational technology. It's probably tied into software that's tied to that specific system that's proprietary.
No.
Oh,
It's you think
I bet.
so?
This is just the reason why most operational technology runs on stuff decades old. It's proprietary stuff you're stuck with this particular software that hasn't been updated in 15 years that is designed to run on just that hardware that came with it. So, I mean, I don't
All
think it's
right.
just a generic Windows machine running generic Windows software. This, like most hardware devices, operational technology tends to be this way. They integrated a computer into it 20 years ago in a proprietary way, and now you're stuck with it.
Yeah, no, no, I would agree, but you can if they're using 8-inch floppy disks or 5 1/4 inch
Yeah.
floppy disks, there are emulators for that for a USB stick,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I and I, yeah,
And I'm sure a sufficiently
yeah,
competent engineer could retrofit the system to use the USB instead, but it would not be a simple plug-in replacement.
I think it could be. Let me do a little
Yeah,
research on
well, yeah,
that one.
you could maybe make some money consulting for SFMTA then. But anyway, then the third one I thought was amazing. In New York
Yeah,
City, they have a new boot for cars, which is called a barnacle, and it's like 3 feet by 6 feet, and they stick it to your windshield. So you can't see out to immobilize your car, which seems like a really terrible idea to me because it doesn't quite cover the whole windshield. So I could imagine someone just driving off trying to peek out through the corners. Back in Pennsylvania, this happened all the time. Your car would be covered with snow and ice, and you get one little bit of it defrosted, you drive through this little hole.
yeah.
So, but they're trying it out in New York City.
So it's a windshield cover,
Yeah, they call it the barnacle.
the barnacle. I see. I see.
I think the one that immobilizes your wheel is a lot safer. You're really not going to drive that car until you get that thing off. Anyway,
Yeah, yeah, that's what I would think too. But you got to try something different, right?
this is innovation. Yeah.
Yeah, innovation at work,
Yeah.
evolution of yeah.
Yeah.
So here's one. We're on the crime spree.
Yeah.
Um, One of the largest heists, I believe, in U.S. history, just occurred in L.A. on Easter Sunday, where thieves went into a warehouse. It's called a cash storage facility, where they got away with $30 million. And they were able to circumvent the security systems. They came in through the roof, and cameras didn't catch them. And you got to wonder, $30 million is not something you can exactly put in your pocket. And
This
I'm
is,
assuming that this has to be multiple U-Haul trucks.
yeah, I would assume at least a pallet truck dumping it on a truck. But maybe that's the largest physical heist. I mean, that's why these
of,
guys are
of,
amateurs.
of
If you get
cash.
online, people steal lots more all the
Yeah, yeah.
time for like cryptocurrency and stuff. These guys are like out of date. They're doing it the
This
hard
is
way.
old school.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, right, right. And I remember, I don't know if you heard this story, and I can't remember, maybe it was one of the major airline terminals in their cargo facility was storing a large sum of cash.
Mm.
And they were transferring it. I don't know why, but it was minimally secured. And thieves went in, maybe it was LAX or New York, and they made off with tens of millions of dollars, is what I recall about 20 years ago.
When I did my first financial job, we were actually in an old Bank of America bank, and
Yeah.
we never used the vault until we had the settlement, the Federal Trade Commission settlement of the Sprint Friends and Family Program. The Sprint Friends and Family Program said if you sign up your friends and family, you'll get kickbacks from them. It was a pyramid scheme, basically. And they decided they did it wrong, so they were going to have to pay out way too much money. So the FTC actually enforced them to live up to their promises of a pyramid scheme. So we had like 50,000 Sprint prepaid cards worth like $100 each, and we stuck them in the vault. We were mailing them to all these people. All the people on the Sprint Pension Family Program would get like a Sprint card worth 50 or $100. Anyway, as close as we
Interesting.
ever came to handling cash,
Yeah. Well, it's as good as cash, right?
more or
Gift
less. Yeah,
cards.
yeah. In principle, if somebody had stole a whole box of them, it would be worth something.
But I guess they would have been traceable to a certain extent.
And they had to be
And
activated or something.
yeah,
There
yeah,
were some other controls, but anyway, we
yeah,
kept them in the vault.
yeah. Okay. All right. You have another one for us?
Yeah, yeah. So Change Healthcare. Remember the big healthcare thing that got hacked from ransomware about a month ago? And then
Yeah.
they apparently paid the ransom, but then
Oh, right.
the above stream ransomware operators ripped off the lower stream ransomware operators. And what we said at the time is the guys that got ripped off still have the data. So that apparently has happened. Now they're getting a second ransomware attack, threatening to expose their data unless they pay more. And they aren't sure who's doing it. It's either the downstreamers that got ripped off, or it's the upstreamers pretending to be the downstreamers to just get more money, or it's this a bunch of the same group just reforming under a new name to try to get more money. But anyway, this is a double extortion thing. They already paid, but now they got to pay again because the bad guys still have the data. And they say researchers have found that most of the time when the bad guys tell you they're deleting the data, they don't really delete the data, of course.
Right.
And they might, try to sell the data or extort you more later. So it's this
So
ransomware
quick,
thing is out of control. Yeah.
yeah, quick recap on this. You have
Yeah.
ransomware as a service that's being
Yeah.
offered by
Black Cat, I think, is the one on top.
yeah, look, yeah, Black Cat, I believe you're right. So Black Cat is offering this to anybody that wants to purchase their service.
Right.
You've got a smaller group, I'll call them a smaller group, that comes in there, it being a customer,
The affiliate.
the
The
affiliate.
affiliate will get 80% of the money because they do the work, but somehow I guess they rent the ransomware itself from the group above them and they handle the negotiation and run the website. So they're
Right.
actually in control of the transfer of the money, and you're just trusting them to give you your cut later, which seems like a really bad plan.
So the affiliate collects the money from the drug company, the drug insurance company.
No, unfortunately, the
Oh,
one
I'm
on
sorry.
top, the one on top collects the
The
money and then
yeah,
supposedly gives the affiliate their cut later.
right. And the key to decrypt to give to
Right.
the drug company that's crypto lockered.
Right. So
But
apparently they got the key from the one on top,
yeah,
but the one in the middle still had the data. And they didn't get any
it,
money. So they're sitting on the data, they didn't get any money. So obviously go to them and demand more money is the next move.
oh, so it's in the so Black Hat has
Yeah.
the ransomware payment,
Yeah.
but the affiliate never got their cut. So the affiliate has the key. The affiliate is not given the key to the
No,
drug company.
I think they already got the key, but the affiliate
Oh,
has the data and they're threatening to publish the data.
I see. I
But it's
see.
all pretty unclear exactly who the bad
Yeah.
guys are, of course, because they're all using fake names and hiding their identity and stuff. But
Yeah, and
anyway,
this isn't exactly the thing that people say, wait a minute, you got the players mixed up here.
yeah,
Let's establish some credibility for us.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're being extorted again.
Yeah. So, yeah. Okay. So I got a Tesla story here. We'll go back to the transportation.
Yeah,
So if you have a Tesla, and I'm not sure how widespread this is, but Elon decided to give everybody self-driving, full self, I believe what they call full self-driving. You got to watch for the terms here
yeah.
because there's the marketing term, if you will, the product term
Right.
versus what the government calls self-driving. And I'm not up on that.
Well,
But
I know
Elon,
what he
oh,
calls full self-driving. You still have to keep your hands on the wheel and stuff. So it's
yeah,
not what a normal human would call full self-driving.
right. Yeah, exactly. So we're clarifying on that. So let me rephrase this. Tesla is giving away their self-driving software, which is the best that they have to offer,
Yeah,
for a limited time. It's either 30 days or 90 days. And normally customers have to pay a premium of several $1,000s to
yeah,
have this. And I think it can be up to 15,000, but
yeah.
I'm not certain on that. It is quite expensive, but it doesn't work because
What?
at the same time, Tesla is settling a lawsuit for a death that occurred in one of the many self-driving software deaths. So here they're giving it away while they're
Well,
settling a lawsuit on the other side.
it works as well as it ever has, right? Which means most people are happy with it, and a few people die.
Yeah. Now,
It's
I
not like
guess you
any,
could,
and besides, most of the time, it's because people like totally ignore it and let the
yeah.
self-driving do all the driving, which they tell you not to do.
I heard of a story of somebody on a Tesla on the Autobahn, and he was asleep and he tied tennis shoes or little weights to the steering wheel to pretend that it was his hands on there. The
Yeah.
police followed him for an hour, I think, with sirens on and everything. He never pulled over. And eventually he woke up and realized that the police were after him
Yeah. Yeah.
and finally pulled over.
Yeah.
So it
Yeah.
works on the Autobahn, one data point there.
Well,
But
I
I
think it
do,
works. I think it works like 90 or 95% of the time, you know. It's just
it's
we
just
get
that
all upset about that
5%.
occasional few percent where you die.
Yeah, yeah. I do know that in over in the peninsula, San Francisco Bay Area Peninsula, there's a road, Skyline Highway, Skyline, whatever it is. Um, there was a corner there, and the self-driving car mistook the tree for the roadway, is the story that I heard, and we don't know for sure. But there were two accidents, two deaths that occurred at the same tree.
Well, that
So,
reminds me of that Bugs Bunny cartoon where he paints like a, a tunnel on the side of a mountain, and
yeah,
it makes total sense. There could be a tree that looks like the line in the middle of the road.
yeah,
You would think that would
yeah.
happen.
Yeah, one would think that would happen.
Yeah.
All right, you have another one
I
today?
do have one more just
Oh,
in
good.
case. I think it might be old hat for us people have been around for a while, but new people might want to know how much they'll pay you for 0 days. There's new articles saying how much zero
Oh,
days for things are worth. And of course, it's worth several $1 million if you have a 0 day that gets into iPhone or Safari or a major browser or something, in case anybody didn't know. And in the spirit of terrible journalism, I just thought I mentioned there's like Chrome is 0 days are worth 3 million, Safari 0 days are 3.5 million. So another newspaper said, I know how to make a fun headline. They added all these numbers up and said, you can get 30 million for a 0 day. And if you have a 0 day each of these things, which is ridiculous. Anyway, so
but
in
who?
case,
What?
yeah.
Who's paying the money?
Oh, a crowd fence apparently, and Zerodium. These are the same brokers who've been around for a long time. They're basically arms dealers. They're
Yeah,
people who
yeah,
who buy 0 days and then resell them to the highest bidder. And some of them claim to have some degree of morals and that they'll only sell to like NATO members and stuff. I think they mostly go to the NSA, but that's only a rumor. I don't think they've admitted that. But I would have
yeah.
bet the NSA is probably the purchaser with the deepest pockets, but I don't really know.
And I think we do know that the FBI didn't for the San Bernardino
Well, they didn't buy a zero
case.
day. They bought Celebrite, which is
I
because a 0 day they wouldn't know what to do with. They have to buy a commercial product that exploits the 0 day.
Yeah, 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 yeah. You're correct on that, but I thought they went to the company because Apple refused, and
Right,
maybe they just sold them Celebrite, which
right,
is forensic software
right.
that
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 uses, in fact, a 0 day. In fact, Apple just recently patched a 0 day that was being used by friendship companies, irritating them. But you know, that's they basically it's the same thing. They have to have 0 days to get into the
yeah,
phone.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So yeah, these are not being paid by Apple and
No.
Microsoft, Google, Meta.
No, no, I don't think so. They're being paid
No,
for by intelligence agencies and companies like that that manufacture that need those 0 days in order to hack into things. That's why, you know, everybody should be aware that everything you use can be hacked.
right,
It's just that
right,
if you have an iPhone and you keep it up to date, it would be, I don't think there's an easy way to hack you. You really have to pay a lot of money to hack you. So unless you're a pretty high value target, you don't have to worry very much.
right. I would agree.
But if
And
somebody's willing to
unless,
spend $1 million, they're getting in.
but
Nothing you
wait,
buy is going to stop them.
but what about the Sun article with
Yeah.
the quantum computers?
Well, that probably cost a few $1 million, you know, they're just making it up. But I mean, the real story there, I think, is the story that came out earlier from this government agency saying Microsoft really dropped the ball. Their security practices are exposed to be bad, and their communication practices are exposed to be bad. It's a pretty embarrassing story for Microsoft.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
What? Yeah, yeah. All right. Well, that's it for me
Yep.
today.
That's it for me too. So I guess we'll have another one on Friday, and I guess we have to keep living on this planet, having not made it to heaven.
No more eclipses?
Well, they say
Not,
20 or 30 years
yeah,
before
20 or
another
30
one
years
comes
for
to
the
him.
US. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
So Sam, I got a quick story before we
yeah.
sign off here. And I can't remember, but it was one of the explorers. like Cabrillo or Cortez had crossed the Atlantic and discovered South America. And you might have these details, you can fill in on this, but they needed food to get back. Cortez, I'll pick on Cortez, and forgive me on my Spanish explorers history. And so they came to the natives, who were very kind and very generous to them. And they said, we need to get food to get back. And the natives were saying, well, we have enough food, but it's only for us for the winter. We can't give you any of our food. So they had knowledge of astronomy, and an eclipse was coming. And so the proclamation was made is, you give us food, or in 3 days, our God is going to take away your sun.
I wonder if that really happened. I've seen it in movies. I don't know.
You've heard the story?
Well, I've seen it in movies, but I didn't think it was real. But maybe it was.
Well, yeah. So let me finish. So sure enough, 3 days, the eclipse starts to happen. The
Yeah.
sun starts to disappear. So they give corn and food and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And Cortez reaches up to the sky and says, God, bring back the sun. So my source on this is Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Oh,
So I will give a little bit of credibility, but he could
yeah.
be pulling everybody's leg on this one.
Well, I don't know much about him, but I know he really does have like a degree in science and is considered a respectable science popularizer. So I imagine there's some basis for it.
Yeah, so he is modern Carl Sagan, I would
Yeah,
argue, or
yeah,
Carl Sagan's replacement.
yeah. Well,
And
then
just
it's better than the U.S. Sun then.
yeah, yeah. And just to add a little bit more credibility, because I follow Neil deGrasse Tyson, is when he was a teenager, he actually met Carl Sagan.
Ah,
And Carl Sagan actually encouraged him to get a degree in whatever he has,
hmm.
cosmology.
Yeah,
I'll put it into a broad category like that.
yeah.
So interesting little tidbit. If you have knowledge of the stars, of the heavens, and celestial objects and movement, you can do things like this to natives, people who don't understand.
Once every 500 years or something to hit a specific spot on the Earth with an eclipse. I mean, that's
It
anyway.
just coincidence.
Uh-huh. All right.
All right, I'll tell you what. Let me look into that, and I'll see if
Yeah.
it's credible or not.
Okay.
And if you're not here, then I know the rapture was a little bit late for picking you up.
Yeah, that would be the only explanation.
Yeah. All right. We'll
Okay.
see you next time, Sam.
Okay.
Thank you.